Welcome into the Georgia show. If you play pickleball, comment in the live comment and let us know, or the replay comment and let us know. We were talking about pickleball before we started. Hot and heavy debate between Mountain Jake and me and Palmer about whether or not it's here to stay. So let us know what you think. We do know that Kris Jones and LBU here to stay one way or another. LBU's not going anywhere. Glenn Schumann picks up another one. The shoe has dropped. Tell us about Kris Jones, Mountain Jake.
Yeah, you got to really like what this pickup brings for you, man. Another top 150 player, number 10 linebacker, I believe, in this class, and really good-sized kid, man, 6'2", 215, and moves really well at that size. Plays in Fairfax, Virginia, decent-sized school there as well. And I think what you really got to like about this is the job that Georgia did recruiting this kid. You go look at his visit list, man. This kid should be going to Penn State if we're following that old adage of follow the visits. I mean, he should be headed for somewhere in his mid-Atlantic area or Florida, perhaps. But he told Chad Simmons things really switched up after that official visit to Georgia, and it certainly seems that was the case. That was the buzz that we were getting as well. But yeah, great pickup for him. I think that he's a guy who fits well within the mold. It's like we talked about, I think, with Justin Williams. They're moving. It's really out of necessity this year as compared to last year. These guys are a little bit bigger than last year's class. Jones, I think, would have been the biggest linebacker in Georgia's class last year, if I'm not mistaken. And it won't be this year if they land Chris Cole, who I do think that they could possibly land as well. But overall, good player. Told Chad Simmons as well that the Quay Walker comparisons were there. And, boy, you got to love if you're hearing that. First-round linebacker drafted. I think that's pretty fair to see where they're coming from there. Look,
double fours there.
Yeah, this guy's getting after it, dude. And a good character guy. Smart, well-spoken, great support system around him, it seems, as well. So just a lot to love, I think, about Kris Jones. You're going to get better by having a guy like Kris Jones in your program, regardless of his production on the field. And his production on the field looks to be really, really strong as well.
Welcome in, Jake Rowe. I can't help but see the Trayvon Walker comparison every time he does anything now, man. That's pretty terrifying if you're on offense.
It's a 44, man. It's that number 44 he's wearing now. One of the things that
your mic is toast, Jake.
Oh, is it?
Well,
you sound like the dialogue in a Christopher Nolan film.
Is this better?
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, Jake, it helps.
That's way better.
All right. It was your hour here on the Georgia show tonight, everybody. We're just we're working the kinks out.
Yeah, the microphone was like turned straight down. I hadn't like tipped it up towards my face yet, but it's that number. I think the Trayvon Walker thing, but you can tell one of the things that I feel like I can see as far as him as a runner when you got to see his gait a little bit is he runs like a running back. Like you can tell he's got there's a choppy step deal there. Doesn't get his knees too high. That kind of plays into his like change of direction. Roquan kind of ran like that a little bit too. And, I just like the fact that he lines up on the edge and he can get an offensive lineman's hands down and can kind of rush the passer in that way because, that's something that Georgia really loves for its inside linebackers to be able to do is to kind of run through blocks on the way to the quarterback when they're asked to blitz. And this guy's an inside linebacker all the way. I don't want anybody to get any kind of, inkling that I'm trying to say he's an edge player. He lines up out there and he can do those things, but Georgia asked that of its linebackers and he fits right in, man. I think he fits right in with this class and right in with some really talented players that Georgia's gotten in this class.
That gives me I was going to say that gives me some Jalen Walker vibes.
Exactly where I was going.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about he's an ILB all the way, but if called upon or if compelled into service, he could probably serve that role.
Yeah. Well, and Jalen played outside linebacker during his senior season. I went back to watch that tape after I watched Chris's right here because I was kind of thinking that same comparison. Just it's a lot of the same names that we mentioned with Justin Williams. The Quay Walkers, the Jalen Walkers, those bigger linebackers. And like you said, Roos, that's characteristic of this class so far. You're not getting a small 6-foot type guy that's going to run across the field. You're getting somebody that's a little bit bigger, a little bit more bruising. And we see it here coming off the edge. Somebody that's, essentially playing a defensive end, edge type player role, but has the inside linebacker capability too.
Violence. This kid's all about violence. And, that's what he should be.
The huddle tape. I don't know who's editing the huddle videos now, but I'm just going to call him Big Dog because every highlight that pops up, there's like a little animation that says Big Dog status. Cracks me up.
No, not that one. Hype. He's nothing.
He's way more than just hype, man. It just blows me away how
he's the young Metro of huddle tapes, man. I mean, he's
there
really
it is. There's the Big Dog status.
Yeah.
We should have known. I mean, we should have watched this tape after his junior year and known right away that he was bound for Georgia.
Well, it's crazy that so many of these tapes, man, like there's no fall off, there's no drop off with so many of these linebacker prospects that Georgia is getting commitments from. Like they're not slowing down. There's like I'm not seeing like a role player, and they're all big. They're all giants.
I'll say this, man. If Justin Williams is number 1 and this kid's number 10, there's 8 really damn good linebackers between the two because it's just there's not a wide gap. And I'm not saying Charles Powers got it wrong or anything like that. I mean, heck, Charles has got him number 25 at linebacker. I heard, man. And I'm sure Charles has got his reasons. But if you look between those two linebackers, if there are 8 linebackers in the country better than this kid, or 9 better, or 8 between him and Justin Williams, I mean, there's just some good players at the position because. And you kind of feel that a little bit in terms of this inside linebacker class, right? Because
DeMarcus Riddick, Chris Cole,
Sammy Brown,
absolutely,
Joseph Phillips,
yeah.
Another guy.
The Gators stacked up some linebacker talent too.
Another guy that's going to be on that list is Jamonte Waller, right there, just popped up number 7. So another guy Georgia was involved with there for a little bit.
Scroll back up real quick here, Wes. Number two is who?
Sammy.
Okay, Sammy. All right. So Georgia offer. I don't think Miles Graham has the Georgia offer. Chris Cole, Georgia offer. Adarius Hayes, Georgia offer. Jamonte Waller, Georgia offer. Aaron Childs, Georgia offer.
Now we will say this about Waller. Georgia did stop recruiting him.
Yes,
a little bit into it, but
they were involved with all of these guys at one point or another. Is kind of
right.
That's what we're talking about, the depth in this class. Joseph Phillips, a guy
would have took Joseph Phillips a couple months ago.
Georgia offer clearly. The list goes on and on. So yeah, this gives you a sense. Out of 10 guys, they were involved with 9 of them in the country. So that really speaks to what they're able to do and what they think about this linebacker class. I think overall, it's a top heavy one,
loaded linebacker class.
Yeah.
When's the last time in Chris Cole, his announcement coming up? When's the last time Georgia was just plucking guys out of Virginia? I'm struggling to remember some top profile guys that they signed out of.
I remember last year they got Joshua Miller. Otherwise, I cannot remember a single guy.
Where was Briscoe from?
State of Virginia. I believe he was from Maryland. Yeah, I believe Jawan Briscoe is from Maryland. Georgia's gotten some guys out of Maryland.
From Maryland.
I can't recall a ton of dudes out of Virginia. They've gone after guys out of Virginia. Josh Sweat was from Virginia. They've recruited dudes. Who was the I guess if you consider DC Virginia, they got MJ Sherman out of Virginia.
Yep.
Who was the corner? Was Tony Grimes a Virginia kid?
He was.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Yep. And they were front and center on that whole deal until he reclassified and
Grayson Lambert played at Virginia.
Well, Leonard Floyd and John Atkins went to prep school.
That's true. SEC record holder Grayson Lambert, we should say.
Yeah, SEC record
holder. NCAA record holder.
He's like Voldemort to South Carolina fans. Don't talk about him.
Be named.
Let's see. Sky High Hicks wants to know who has the most upside out of Cole and Jones. I'm bringing up Cole's footage now.
The two Chris's.
Yeah, Cole's one of those dudes. There aren't many guys in this class that have more upside than that dude.
And what's crazy, he was a late bloomer, man.
Yeah, he's so big and long and fast.
Like first of the year.
Yeah.
He was not really on a lot of radars until, in the last year, early this year. So yeah,
Chris Cole gives me some going off the Georgia board a little bit. He gives me some Carlos Dansby vibes.
Oh,
some old school Auburn, played some safety early in his career.
Yeah, that's digging deep.
I mean, just so big and long and play. I think he'll play ball for a long time, man. Because you watch what he does on film. I mean, he's coming from 17 yards back on that play right there to go get somebody. He lines up over the slot. He lines up at safety. He lines up on the edge. They ask him to do a lot at the high school level, and I don't know if any of it is, football IQ based. Like, I don't know if there's a ton of reading and reacting and all and keys and all that stuff that they're asking him to do. If they're just saying, hey, you stand back here from a long way and you watch it and you go get it. But either way, he's seeing the game from a lot of different angles where he's playing at the high school level because they just put him all over the place.
Well, and also self-listed recently at 6'4", 220.
Yeah, sub 4'5" guy too.
Doing it in an elite frame too.
Yeah.
So that's what's scary to me about Chris Cole. You're talking about a guy who may just be scratching the surface of his ability and doing it just with outstanding size, outstanding speed, just everything you're looking for, man.
And I've got a RPM pick in for Georgia for Cole. I will say this: I haven't heard anything out of the Tennessee visit, but anytime you get a kid, on campus, that late visit might be the last time he visits before he decides, because I do think he wants to make a decision in August. There was some talk out there. I got some questions about this. Maybe it was from some other site reporting that Georgia was pushing kids to commit fast. I haven't heard anything about that, and I dang sure hadn't heard it about a guy like this. I mean, Georgia. I think maybe folks are drawing some conclusions because Georgia's getting guys to commit early. But I mean, listen, man, there's a lot of guys committing to a lot of schools right now, not just Georgia. The summer was a grind, and people want to get their schooling out of the way, their high school seasons out of the way, and let those kind of be front and center. Georgia's not pushing anybody, man. This is
like a byproduct of the early signing day to me.
Yeah.
Guys don't really have a lot of time postseason anymore. If you're done, maybe you're done around Thanksgiving in most cases. If you're playing for state championships, you're probably playing that late. But, for the most part, guys don't have a lot of time to wait between early signing day and right now. They're doing their high school season, and a lot of coaches – you hear it consistently, I think, from the Buford end especially, but I don't think that's unique to them, that they want guys to go ahead and get this done so they can focus on their senior season of high school. And I think that's a good move. I understand it. But, if guys had the opportunity to wait till February again, then they might do that. And also, too, I think that some of it's just guys looking around and saying, wow, they're stacking a lot of cats up, man.
Yep.
I got to get my spot. I got to reserve my spot at the table.
Well, and the May official visit weekend, was that a new addition this year?
I think it was last year as well. I believe last year was the first year you could do that.
Like I said, I don't remember that, but
yeah,
I mean that certainly factors in the fact that kids are taking official visits that early.
In fact, I think you could do it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Justin Rhett took his official visit during G-Day last year.
I think you might be right.
Yeah. And so I think that was the first time, though, that was possible to do that. So it's an accelerated calendar for everybody, given how the NCAA has moved the recruiting calendar around. And coaches want guys to sign during the early signing period, whether they're early enrolling or not. They want to go ahead and get them in because then they know where we have to focus in the portal, where we got to focus in trying to upturn a gym. I mean, it's a lot of it's how you work your numbers.
And just listening to Kirby Smart talk about, the earlier phase of recruiting, he's enjoying it. I mean, I think it makes it easier on these coaches because they can turn some of their attention towards the next class this fall. Obviously, you're going to keep in contact with all your guys and the guys that you wouldn't mind flipping too. But, if you've got the majority of your class set, you can really focus in on the last few pieces of 2024 and then put a lot of time and effort into getting off to a great start with 2025.
Yep.
Do we have a decision date for Cole?
No, I think early August is what we're expecting. So I would say next couple of weeks, but nothing locked in officially.
All right, and we don't know how
dates. We don't know how that Tennessee visit is going. I mean, listen, I want everybody to understand. I think Tennessee is absolutely a factor. You get a late visit like that, they might be able to kind of swing things. But going into that visit, Georgia is the team to beat, and it's the team to beat until I hear otherwise. But Tennessee's going to have a shot there. And what ends up happening here is you get a commitment like Justin Williams, you get a commitment like Kris Jones, and you get another school, and maybe that allows them to get a pinky toe in the door. And they pry a little bit, they work a little bit, they do this, they do that. You listen, these guys, these coaches are skilled salesmen. They get paid very, very well for what they do. And listen, it's all fair. I ain't gonna sit here and trash a coach for anything they tell a kid to get a guy like Chris Cole on your football team, because that's what you get paid to do. You get paid to get good players on your team. Good on them if they're able to turn the worm here. But Georgia's got a lot of momentum going into that Tennessee visit, and Georgia has a lot to sell him on the inside linebacker position. I mean, Glenn Schumann, at my last count, had 2 first-round picks, 2 Butkus Award winners, 2 consensus All-Americans, I think maybe 2 unanimous All-Americans. I'm not sure if Nakobe Dean was a unanimous All-American. At least 3 third-round picks, maybe more. A running back turned wide receiver turned Mr. Irrelevant 7th-round pick and Tate Crowder. Just a lot of good things have happened for Glenn Schumann when it comes to coaching linebackers, and it's only going to get better.
He's got some pelts on the wall for sure. We've got some upcoming dates as well. KJ Bolden, August 5th. That is a week from yesterday, Saturday. And we got Nate Frazier. I don't even know if he goes by Nate Frazier, but that's what I call him. Nathaniel Frazier, if you're using google.com to find him, on August the 6th. And a lot of hand-wringing on the board over KJ Bolden's visit to Auburn. And I get it, guys. Hugh Freeze is on a tear right now.
Yeah,
absolutely. They've done a really good job.
No, Perry Thompson, DeMarcus Riddick. I mean, 2 5-star guys from your rivals in the last week. I mean, it doesn't get much better. I feel like if you're Auburn right now in terms of trying to, hurt the other and bolster yourself. So credit due where it is, man. I think they've done a nice job. They brought in a tremendous group of guys for this Big Cat weekend as well. And yeah, I like what they're doing. I mean, there's like I said, there's credit where it's due, man.
What's crazy is on paper, it looks like they flipped from their rivals. But in reality, I would consider they flipped 2 from their rival, and that was Alabama.
I would agree.
Because 3 months ago, we told you DeMarcus Riddick probably not going to be in this class, probably going to go to Alabama. I would have bet the farm.
I would have
bet Roos's farm. I would have bet Palmer's farm, and I would have fought both of them afterward because I would have lost their farms. Because let me tell you something, Alabama had all but flipped DeMarcus Riddick from Georgia, and then Auburn got him from them too. I mean, that doesn't matter. Let Georgia take the L, whatever. You can't tell an Auburn fan anything right now, not one thing. And good for them. That's great. I know it's been a long time coming. The last 20 years of this Georgia rivalry have been just viciously bad for you. I understand. It's been tough to endure. It's probably not going to get any better anytime soon. And it's damn sure not going to get any better if you don't get some offensive and defensive linemen committed. But enjoy right now, okay? Enjoy that, because right now you got 1 D lineman committed, and that don't get it done in the SEC, as Tommy Tupperville told Mark Richt one time, way back in the day. So it's funny to see how those 2 have ended up now. But that fork in the road is something. They're doing some great things. I still think, right now, I'll tell you right now, I still think KJ Bolden to Georgia as of today. There's a lot of weird stuff going around about KJ Bolden. Apparently, there's some Auburn folks that have kind of spun themselves up into thinking it's an Auburn FSU battle. Folks, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. That's not. I don't normally laugh at recruiting takes, but I did have to chuckle at that one, man. That's the first I've heard of that. Georgia's very much in it with KJ Bolden. Auburn is too. Florida State is. I think Ohio State's kind of slipping a little bit here. I think Ohio State, listen, if Ohio State doesn't get him, I'll say this. I'll thump my chest about the Perry Eliano cousin connection. Like we mentioned, I believe it was on Wednesday, Wes, when Jeremy was on here. I mean, I think they just found out they were cousins like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So, and everybody, that's all everybody
just got the 23andMe back. Trace the family tree.
That's all folks wanted to talk about for like 6 straight weeks is Perry Eliano, cousin. They don't know each other. They didn't even know they were cousins. So they can't be that close. But ultimately, we'll see. We'll see how it ends up. I'm not saying Ohio State's out of it. Just seems like they're sliding a little bit. Pretty confident he won't end up at Alabama, but still kind of confident that he'll end up at Georgia, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's still time for minds to change.
Hey, y'all lay off Barry, all right? Barry Watkins in the comments is either an Auburn fan messing with all of y'all or a Georgia fan messing with Auburn people, saying that Nye
or
Carr
somebody with a traumatic
Auburn,
brain injury.
Nate Frazier to Auburn as well. So you heard it here first on the Georgia Show. Barry Watkins with the scoop.
No, listen, I'm with you, Jake. I've been consistent about KJ Bolden now for a long time, and I'm not changing that up. We'll see what we hear tomorrow. I mean, right? It's after a big visit weekend. It's exciting. It's, there's a lot of buzz right now around Auburn. And I get it, man. I get where they're feeling really good about this. I'm not backing off of the Georgia pick. I haven't heard anything that would make me do that. So all I can go on is what I know, what I feel. And I feel that it's still all Georgia. And everything that I've heard continues to point that way. We'll see if it holds. There's a long way to go. All right. I mean, even though it's a couple days away, there's a long way to go between now and then. So anything can change, but I think KJ Bolden is Georgia bound if you're asking me tonight.
What do we know about his relationship with Raiola before Raiola transferred to Buford, and obviously since? I'm sure they've been thick as thieves getting to hang out together.
Guys know each other, man. I mean, they play on 7-on-7 circuits together. They go to these top trainers. They're spending time at these NIL events that the NIL event that On3 put on. They're putting in face time, right? They're the best players in America get to hang out a lot, and so they knew each other. I don't know that they were like bros necessarily. I think that they got phone numbers. I think I recall at one point them mentioning, texting each other, or one of them mentioning texting the other. But to any degree, they're not strangers in the night, man. I mean, these guys are familiar with each other, and there's a lot of ongoing discussions with them for sure.
Nate Frazier is a clone of DeAndre Swift, according to Sky High Hicks in our comment section. I think everything we're hearing seems pretty good for Georgia as it relates to Frazier trending towards the Dogs. So could be a big weekend for Georgia. I know that running back talent is something that Georgia fans are clamoring for. We've been on the record here on the show. Whatever KJ Bolden decides doesn't make or break this class. But, man, you talk about August 5th and August 6th. Those two guys capping off this week that one of the Kris has already started at linebacker. Yeah, we've had some amazing weeks in Georgia recruiting for us to talk about and cover this summer. It will be hard to imagine one bigger than that.
Yeah, I don't know that you're even really going to be able to do that, to be honest with you. That's as impressive as this haul is. That stretch was as good as I can ever remember in my almost 10 years of doing this. So, and now listen, you're talking about 5-star guys here. And listen, if you get Nate Frazier, you get KJ Bolden. I continue to hear good things about Williams Nwaneri, and maybe I'm alone in that. Maybe, Oklahoma's hearing good things. Mizzou's hearing good things. I can only trust what I hear as well. I think Georgia's still in a good spot there. I don't know that they went out. I think that's probably too close to call at the moment. But, they've got a real chance here before the season starts. And I said this a couple shows back. Georgia has a chance to be in a better spot than they have ever been prior to the season starting in terms of recruiting, period. I stand by that. I think that that's really the case, especially given some of these visits that you got coming up.
Jake Rowe, appreciate you joining us for a moment. We'll say sayonara for now and see you again on Bark After Dark tomorrow night.
That's right. We'll have a pre-recorded Bark After Dark tomorrow night. I mean, I'll go ahead and I'm just going to out Roos right now. Roos is going to go see Shohei Ohtani tomorrow night. So.
Man, come on! I've been looking forward to this. You got.
I know. Listen, I do it too.
Cat, man. I don't even like baseball that much, but
Listen, if Roos wants to go to a Braves baseball game, I'm down with it because one time I had seats behind the Braves dugout. I got them from David Andrews' dad, and me and some other buddies were looking at going, and Roos was like, "Nah, man, y'all go ahead." I was like, what? These are free tickets behind the dugout. It's like 4 rows behind the dugout. They were so close that a pop fly foul ball hit my buddy on top of the head. We couldn't save him. We tried to jump over his head and save him, but we couldn't do it. But
I probably wouldn't have gone. I probably would not be going unless Ohtani was playing.
Yeah, but hey, Roos needs to get some of them Braves up in him. And mate, listen, I'm hoping it turns him into a big fan. We got more to talk about, as if we need more to talk about.
He ain't seen the Braves play game all year.
That's right.
He's coming down from the hills to see it.
See ya.
All right, guys. It is camp week for the Dawgs. Palmer been flexing. He's been stretching, doing his calisthenics, getting ready for camp week. We'll hear from Kirby Smart on August 2nd. That is Wednesday, if my calendar is on the right year. It is. Palmer, what are you looking forward to hearing, man? We just heard from Kirby at SEC Media Days, but as I've alluded to, when Kirby gets that visor on and y'all hear from him after practice, he's a different dude than when he's up there spitting wise words from behind the podium at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So Wednesday's interview session with him will be before the first practice. Then we'll talk to players Thursday after that first practice. With what we've been told, a brief viewing period on Thursday. So should be a lot of content to come out of that. Do I think – I don't know how different the message will be on Wednesday from what it was at SEC Media Days, 2 weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks and 1 day from the time that Kirby talked in Nashville. Because – in terms of injuries, I mean, that's going to be the same thing. You're not going to have quarterback worked out. We didn't really discuss wide receivers with him or discuss, defensive line, the secondary. I think a lot of those things will, we'll see how it plays out during camp, some of those position battles. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could go with headlines and storylines. Jake and I are planning to have you all covered this week with storylines for fall camp. And I think that there's a lot of different ways that this stuff could go. And, I think certainly there is an excitement in the air that football will be back.
I'm excited to have Kirby actually have to talk about the quarterbacks. I think he kind of sidestepped it at SEC Media Days. We didn't really hear much about Carson Beck or Brock Vandagriff or Gunnar Stockton come out of Nashville. And I think at this point, it's probably going to dominate the storylines, I would imagine, whether Kirby actually gives a starting QB or not. I have to imagine this is going to be something he'll get multiple questions about from different angles as people try to peel back the layer of that onion.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of the next month, they are going to have to decide on a starting quarterback if they haven't already decided that. Like you said, whether he comes out and publicly says that or not, I'm not certain. What I do think is if they've made that decision and that is something that is known within the team, it's probably something that he will – and I'm not expecting that decision to have been made now, maybe a couple weeks into camp or, by the time the UT Martin week rolls around. If that's, at the point that is a decision that's made within this team, I think that he's probably going to want to put that fire out, as opposed to having to answer that question every day, in lead up to that game.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that, I don't know. He's not going to do it. I mean, he's just going to put or next to it every week, and that's just how this will be for the rest of time with anything that he does. But, yeah, I don't know. I think that he'll talk about that. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they address, replacing a lot of key elements. And really, too, what's interesting is, they're not going to think about it at this point. Obviously, they're going to try to move forward from here. But, Georgia could lose a lot after this year. That's possible. And so the face of the program could change pretty drastically. I don't know that that's something that we'll get to in preseason camp, but I think it's a storyline that is of interest to me throughout the season in terms of, depth, experience, guys who've been around, guys who've been with this program through 2 national championships and pushing for a third. How does that affect things? How do you kind of build for the future knowing that that's the case? And I think that the important piece is to reinforce that championship culture and bring these new guys in the same way.
Well, and along those lines, I do think that we might start to hear some buzz about some of those younger guys, especially the ones that were enrolled early, which is the majority of this class. But those ones that were enrolled early and, getting their feet wet during bowl prep, during spring practice, those guys, I do think that we will start to hear some positive stuff about, certain ones. And, that gives you an idea, like you said, Roos, that Georgia is likely to lose a lot of players from this team. Obviously you've got a full football season to play before then, but likely to lose a lot of guys. And some of those younger guys, whether they're second year guys that didn't play a ton last year, somebody that would come to mind there would be like a Darius Smith or a CJ Smith at wide receiver. You've got some youngsters in there, Raylan Wilson, CJ Allen. Those guys are going to be counted on to step into, bigger roles. And so I think that we will start to hear some noise about some of those guys and how they're coming along. Both the true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores, those underclassmen. I think that's where we might get some headlines this season.
I'm ready for Darius Smith hype, dude. I've been on the Darius Smith train for a long time. I'm ready for the breakout for Darius Smith. I think he's an elite athlete, and I'm just waiting for him to put it all together. I hope this is the year.
Darius Smith and Tyler Williams are on the all-Roos team.
No question.
I'm most interested to hear about the quarterbacks, like I mentioned. I want to hear what Kirby has to say about the transfer wide receivers, Lovett and Ra Thomas. From what the players are indicating, Lovett is ready to go. He's ready to play. He's ready to dominate. And when I spoke to him, he's ready to do those things too. He is he has lightning in a bottle right now, and I can't wait to hear what Kirby says about him. But you also have the players that you kind of take for granted because what they can do because they've done it the past couple seasons in Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. And, how do they get any better? How do they improve? How can they get better aside from, McConkey's rough stretch where he had some drops against Kent State and Missouri, I believe. That guy's rock solid, and so is Brock Bowers. And then on the defensive side of the ball, how do you replace Jalen Carter? You can't do it with one person, but how's Georgia going to approach that? How much depth do they have at D-line? And how encouraged is Kirby with what he's seeing from all those guys who are going to attack it by committee? I think we've spoken before about how Nazir Stackhouse can kind of be the spearhead of that group, but obviously you're looking at wave after wave after wave of player and group on that defensive line core. So excited to hear that, and I don't know how much we'll actually hear from Kirby as he gets camp started because I don't know how much he's actually seen. But as things unfold over the next couple weeks, we'll have you covered, of course, here at DawgsHQ. Wrapping up here, guys. Sony Michel called it quits and retired from the NFL. That running back position is just brutal, man. It is ravaging. It tears you apart. And we saw Sony Michel make the most of it in the NFL and win 2 Super Bowls. And he's had a pretty good career, man. And I don't blame him for hanging it up now. He's probably feeling every single hit he's ever taken in the league.
It made me feel old, is what I would say. Made me feel real damn old because I was not exactly a young man when Sony Michel committed to Georgia. And it was actually the first signing day that I worked, and I hung out at the Blind Pig with Jake Rowe. And had a chance to cover that one. And I remember that was, Isaiah McKenzie hopped on that day. It was an exciting time, man. And, one of the stories I always heard about Sony Michel was that, and I thought it spoke a lot to who he was and what he was about. I won't mention who told me the story. Though if they want to later on, they can. But I heard that Sony Michel came into Mark Richt's office and sat down with him after a visit. And Mark Richt said, listen, there's a lot of people that are going to offer you a lot of things because you're a really special player and you're an impactful guy. And we're not going to do that because that's not what we do. And we don't want to jeopardize your future in any way. And that was kind of what compelled Sony Michel to land with Georgia, that Georgia kind of took that approach with him, that Mark Richt took that approach with him. And I think that really speaks a lot to who he is, who he was at that time. My God, dude, if you'd given me $100,000 when I was 17 years old, I didn't know telling what I'd have done. I'd have signed with
nothing good.
I would have signed with UT Martin, but baby, I mean, there's no question. But I think that was really cool. And then also too, he and Chubb coming back, how that propelled and springboarded Georgia into the place that it is now. And I'll never forget them sitting in those chairs and being the confetti raining down on them and how sad that moment was. But then to think about how great everything has been since and how they almost got him to the mountaintop, even in what was not one of Georgia's more talented squads at the time. I think it speaks a lot to both of those guys, Sony included. Nothing gracious, nothing great. A damn good dog and certainly a hero, I think, to a lot of people.
Well, something that Georgia fans don't want to hear, I'm sure, because they're tired of hearing it from other fan bases. But the truth is the truth here. The injury to Michel in that national championship game changed that whole ball game. Yeah. He got hurt in the Rose Bowl, I believe, or I think he got hurt in the SEC championship and was playing hurt in the Rose Bowl. It was either a groin or a quad, something in his leg. I can't remember. But he exited that national championship and couldn't come back in. And he was having the most success against Bama. And when you have the rotation that Georgia had with Chubb and Michel, I think losing Michel in that game, Swift did all he could. But not having Chubb and Michel in that game was pretty detrimental to Georgia in the long run. But the impact he had while he was there and being part of that group that decided to come back, Kirby Smart owes Sony Michel a lot of credit for that national championship run and for the foundation of what Georgia football is right now.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a transitional period, I think, is the best way to describe those early years. And, as somebody that didn't, crazy to say I wasn't covering the team then, and watched from afar,
like 8th grade.
I was a senior in high school. Come on. I was an accepted student to UGA by the time that Georgia was playing for an SEC championship. No, but it was cool to watch those guys from afar, watch Georgia, make a, return to relevancy, because a year before I had been, on a college visit watching Georgia lose to Vanderbilt.
Whew. Tough times, man. Different times for sure.
Nickel State also that year.
That whole thing just didn't feel real.
No, I agree. That felt like a fever dream.
But anyways, I know y'all are paying your respects to Sony Michel. Tons of respect for him from everyone on the show, of course. And we'll see the Jazz hands. Look forward to seeing what Sony Michel does next, man. Let's do some dog stocks on our Dog Stock Sunday. I'm going to say stock down on Dak Prescott's prediction that he will only throw 10 interceptions max in this season. And I think it has a lot to do with all the Georgia fans, all the Georgia players, rather, on the Philadelphia Eagles team, because Nolan Smith is coming. Jalen Carter's coming. Keely Ringo, just signed his deal a few weeks ago. I think the ink is just recently dried. He's coming. And you got Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, the old heads, that are coming as well.
Did y'all
Dak
see
Prescott is going to have a tough time not throwing several interceptions against this Eagles defense, not just because of the Georgia players, but a lot of them are actually getting their chance to step up and play. And from what we've heard from the reporters in Philly, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith are making things an absolute hell for the players that are already on the roster. So Dak Prescott, everybody else in the NFC East, gonna be a tough road for you.
Well, Jalen Carter already coming out and saying, I'm ready to turn up, make a big impact this season. I'm ready to kill the Cowboys. Everybody's got beef with them, so I might as well join the wave. But far from my favorite quote, so I'll combo this into a stock up there on Nolan Smith. He was talking about, what he loves about football and said, we have the most perfect job in the world. We get to come out here, play football, fly around, and hit mother, you know what? Just first of all, the thoughts of him saying that and the look on Claude Felton's face had he done that at Georgia.
It would have killed the man. The man would have died.
Claude's been in all of Kirby Smart's pressers and locker room availabilities.
Not to mention
non-availabilities is what I meant to say. Claude's heard way worse from Kirby.
He also had something in there about, he can make up for a lot of mistakes by going and knocking the shit out of somebody. And I was, that's a sign that football is back. Guys ready to fly around, knock it out of someone. Love the fire that Nolan is showing up there. And just really excited to watch Philadelphia this fall. I will also add in a quick stock up since we're talking about the Rams with Sony's retirement. Stetson Bennett showing a lot of signs of early growth in fall camp or training camp, as they call it in the NFL. Sean McVay and the Rams coaching staff and organization, I just can't remember, can't forget how excited that they were when they were able to land him in the draft. He's proven them right. He's learning. He's a quick learner, learning from, quarterback coach Zach Robinson, obviously former Georgia quarterback Matthew Stafford. And he said, McVay said he thought that yesterday was Stetson's sharpest day at camp. And, was asked about, one of the reporters asked specifically about if he could see him, learning on the fly, making adjustments throughout practice. And he said that he thinks that's a fair evaluation. So stock up on Dawgs in the NFL.
Yeah. And that stock is only going up. All right, Jake, before you begin your descent down the mountain to Truist Park, take us home, wrap it up. What's your stock report?
All right, I'm going to say stock up, and I wrote an article on it earlier this week on Glenn Schumann, and I've probably done one on him before, but they did an outstanding job, I thought Georgia did, knowing that DeMarcus Riddick was probably headed elsewhere now for a couple of months. How do they kind of offset that loss? They go out and land a five-star guy, the number one linebacker in the country, in Justin Williams, and then they follow it up with a top 150 player in the class, number 10 linebacker, in Kris Jones, and then potentially you're in it for a guy like Chris Cole as well. I think Georgia has done a great job of covering its bases when it comes to the 2024 class. Yes, there are areas of improvement that they could stack up, right? I mean, you've lost a safety commit. Will Peyton Woodyard stick? We're watching that one. As of right now, I haven't heard anything to make me think otherwise, but I know people are kind of wringing their hands over that one. We'll see. But if he doesn't, KJ Bolden is hanging out there. You got Cam Michel as a guy to watch. So Georgia has options available. And that's really what they've done well in this class is keep their options available, keep a lot of names warm. And so I give them a lot of credit. Like I said, Glenn Schumann doing a masterful job. You lose a five-star linebacker. Not a lot of teams could do that and offset the hurt. I think Georgia did in landing a guy like Justin Williams and then bringing a guy like Kris Jones in. So kudos to them for the way that they're handling it. And also stock up is Jim Stone's finale night, and really excited to see how they wrap the season up.
All right, we'll hop off and let you get to that. Y'all hit like and subscribe on DawgsHQ on YouTube. Thanks for joining us for the Georgia Show every Sunday and Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Bark After Dark every Monday at 9. Some big guests coming this football season. Can't wait to see what's in store tomorrow night. And as camp gets started, y'all just take a moment, appreciate where you're at as Georgia football fans. It's never been this good. I think it's about to get better. Catch y'all next time.